Welcome, everybody. I'm really honored that you've taken the time to spend your afternoon with me, or whatever time of day it is where you're from. Uh, Today, we're going to talk about how to use AI to accelerate your job hunt. So, if you want to put into the chat how long you've been looking and a little bit about your job search, it'd be great to hear about that. For questions, I would encourage you to use the Q&A function, because then we can organize those and respond to those as well. So I'm going to start by sharing a few slides, and ultimately I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to show you a few things, and then hopefully I'll be able to have time at the end to answer questions that you might have in the QA. Somebody had asked before. This whole presentation is going to be recorded and reshared. And so this is using AI to accelerate your job hunt. I'm Garrett Rice. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Callings.ai. We are an AI-powered total job hunt platform. I'm going to talk about not just our platform, but other aspects of the AI job hunt. But I will show you our platform as well for those that want to follow along and see if it'll be helpful to them. You can use callings.ai/accelerate, and if you log in and register now, and upload your resume, you can follow along and try out the tools that I'm going to demo today and later in the presentation. And this will give you a month access for free, so you don't have to pay to try that out. And that'll give you access to every feature on the platform. But like I say, this is a broad-based discussion about AI, and so my intent is not for it to be completely a sales pitch. And so I want to start with a definition of modern AI. So AI has been around a long time. The old joke in the technology field was that, AI was the future of computers, and it always will be. But it's finally arrived in around 2022, and is taking over the world. And so my definition of AI is a little different than what you may have read. My definition of modern AI, specifically around large language models, which are really the core of this revolution, is that it's the ability to use natural language to access the information from and run complex tasks on a computer network with access to a big slice of the global information pool. And that's why it works so amazingly. You type into ChatGPT questions and prompts, and it basically goes out and answers your questions based on the information it's gleaned from basically the corpus of information that's out there on the internet. And then it also gives you access to the functions of those computers as well, which many people call agents. And so this is truly a revolution. And I encourage all of you, well, if you're here, you're already interested in learning about it. And I think that's essential, because it's a critically important thing that's happening right now. In terms of AI, I'm going to share a few stats. AI is the fastest adopted technology in human history. Hundreds of millions of people adopted ChatGPT within 30 to 60 days of it coming out. And already, just a few years in, 61% of Americans are using it regularly, like in the last 6 months. Enterprises and organizations are adopting it really fast. And we're going to talk about the job hunt today. 72% of enterprises now use AI in recruiting workflows, and that probably is low. 88% of Fortune 500 companies automate resume screening. Not all of that is AI, but it gives you a sense of what's going on with the modern job market, which I'm going to talk to you about in a bit. And here's the TLDR: AI and technology have completely transformed how people go about getting a job, and you need to understand that as a job seeker. Professionals with AI experience will earn 20 to 40% more than peers in similar roles without those skills. So like fire and the wheel and any other human intervention, the people that adopt it, learn it, and know how to leverage it are the people that are rewarded. And so, luckily, this is a group of people that they believe in that and are jumping in on that technology. So I think you guys are in better shape. How can AI help accelerate a job hunt? At the highest level, it can help you through the steps, which I'll talk about later as well. It can help guide you through your own personal exploration on where you're going, what you want in your career. It can help hone your personal brand and tell your story. AI can help improve job discovery. It can tailor your applications for each role you pursue, which is essential today, and I'll talk more about that. It can magnify your outreach and networking. It can help you prepare for interviews and communications. And overall, it can level the playing field with the HR hiring systems that are all going that route. And so it has to be a tool that you use to balance your efforts. So Chaz Russ says, I read somewhere that 75% submitted resumes are discarded for inconsequential reasons. How does one beat the ATS systems? So we're going to talk about that. It's not that they discard them, it's that 75% of the people who apply don't meet the criteria for them to move on to the next step. And so they just go into a digital black hole. It's kind of the same thing, but it's slightly different in the sense that they're not looking to reject people, they're looking to qualify people. And that's part of the statistics I want to talk about right now, which is this is the modern job hunt. This is what you need to expect when you're looking for a job. The hunt is going to last 5 months or more. The more white collar you are, the more senior you are, the longer the hunt is going to last. Job hunters are going to need to spend 10 hours a week looking for their next role if they want to be successful. So this is at minimum a part-time job, if not more. Job seekers need to submit, and this is an old statistic, 50 or more resumes or applications on average to succeed and land a job. And I think this number may be heading toward 100 or more. And I know certainly people that have applied to hundreds, if not thousands of jobs. And so the reality is that it's a volume business. You know, as Chaz mentions, a lot of resumes are simply rejected. And this next statistic is really an important one. Job posts on average will attract 250 or more applications. That's from Greenhouse, the ATS system vendor. And so in popular roles at popular companies get thousands of applicants. And so when you're applying, you're really entering a lottery to get a job if you don't do other things, which we're going to talk about today. The thing that led us to build Callings is this next statistic, which is the average job seeker today uses 16 different tools and services in their job hunt. We don't think that's sustainable. And if you're using 16 tools and services, none of them are working very well. And so, this is the point, which is there really hasn't been a job hunter platform. Even the main platforms out there that allege to help candidates are really they make all their money on selling jobs as ads or by selling recruiting services on the back end. That's where their revenue streams come from. And so they're not incentivized to really focus on your journey as much as they need to be, I think. And then the final thing is what Chaz had mentioned. HR systems ghost 75% of applicants. That is to say, no human being ever sees those resumes. And that number may even be higher. What they do is try and pull out their pool for recruiting, and everybody else just disappears into a black hole. And many companies, unfortunately, will not let you know that you didn't make the cut. They will say nothing, which means you're ghosted. I think that's not good business practice, but that's what they do. So that's the reality of what you face. And I share this because sometimes these statistics, when experienced, send people into a dark space, right? Nobody likes to be rejected. And it's helpful to understand this so that as you're going through your job hunt, you don't take it personally. Almost universally, not hearing back or not winning and getting an interview is not a personal process. It's really just you being part of a bureaucracy. And so keep that in mind. In terms of holding what a job hunt is, I think it's helpful to think of a job hunt as a sales process. And in that sales process, you are a product that you are selling. By the way, you're also the salesperson. And the company is your customer. And you're trying to attract their attention to buy your product or hire you. Your sales tools are things like your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your cover letter, your endorsements. And And they interview if you can get one, and when you get one, that's when you finally have a chance to make your pitch about your product. And most salespeople think of everything that they do as a funnel. And so they don't get upset about any stage in the process. They know that they have to work the whole funnel down to the point where they actually meet customers and get a chance to sell their product. And so I encourage you to think that way because it will help you hold what a job hunt is better in your mind and not personalize it, and not let it become an emotional, weight for you. And so your goal is to find as many job opportunities that you're qualified for and interested in as possible, and apply to a subset of those. And then of that subset, you should network to as many of them as possible, which we'll talk about. And then hopefully those will matriculate down into interviews in which the company has intent to evaluate you and hire you potentially. And a subset of those interviews will lead to offers. And so if you have a wide pool at the top, your odds of having interviews and offers at the bottom go up. If you're the number of opportunities you pursue are narrow at the top, then you have to bat a higher percentage to get through and get an offer. And so think about it that way, and depersonalize it a little bit, because for the most part it's impersonal. It's not personal. It's not about you or what you've done. So I share that with you because we've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of job seekers, and I think this is the best way to hold what a job hunt is. The workflow steps in a job hunt are pretty straightforward, and you're going to have to do these steps in an iterative fashion over and over again. You need to really know yourself. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Where are you going? And you have to articulate that and your value proposition in it. And so that's the first and probably most important thing that you do is know where you're going and articulate your value in that process. The second thing is to go find job opportunities that match that. Then do your research, study, prepare so that you can speak articulately and in an educated fashion to those opportunities. You're going to need to customize so that they recognize that you're highly qualified for this role. And customization or tailoring is really about using the language of the hiring company. It's not about faking it or not being genuine to your true backgrounds. And we'll talk more about that as well. You'll need to apply to a lot of those jobs, which is increasingly a process unto itself. Companies are adding more and more questions and workflows into the application process. And then this is the most important step. You need to network. 70 to 80% of successful job hunts include some form of networking. You have to have a real human being identify you, and we're going to talk more about that as well. And then finally, there's interview preparation. So if you network and you go through all those steps in network and you actually get an opportunity to talk to people, you need to really prepare and be on your game. Not just about you, yourself, your personal brand, your background, the value proposition that you bring, but also you have to prepare and understand the company, their situation, their culture, et cetera. So those are the workflow steps. And just this is a little plug for us. We've studied those really carefully and built a platform to manage all of them in one place. And that's really what Callings is. We power all those steps on a single platform. And so, our goal is we're built for job seekers. We have tools for finding the personal insights to help you know yourself better. We match you against millions of job opportunities. We integrate a CRM so you can track your entire job hunt in one place. We have resume tailoring and improvement tools and cover letter tools so that you can customize for each role. We identify networking targets for your roles when you pursue them. We're all AI powered, so we level the playing field with what the HR side is doing. And we even include live coaching and community support as well. So we're not just an AI platform. And I encourage you to think about these options for AI as job seekers. I think you're going to use both. And general AI, which are tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity, are fantastic for exploration and open-ended questions for where you come in and you may not know where you're going. And the upside of it is that the content is is pretty much universal. You can ask questions in any direction about anything. Um, where I think we can help is our focus is really around job optimized and tailored content around the job hunt. And so we're really specialized in that area. You can do job matching and find job descriptions that you're seeking using these tools. We have a very large job inventory, and we specifically go and find jobs for based on you and your resume. So, we have tools and capabilities that are not generically built into the general AI platform tools. They can do ATS optimizations. It tends to be a manual effort, so we do it one job at a time. We've built in a workflow for that into our platform. They provide really great feedback and training on networking. We try and build tools that actually will find you contacts and help you outreach to them. Where I think one strength we provide is they don't really track your workflow. So everything is a one prompt at a time. We actually track your entire job hunt in one place. So, as a differentiation, as I show you these tools, that's where I think you would use both. And everybody that's on our platform is using these other tools as well. And by the way, Callings is built on top of APIs for many of these. We use ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity APIs in our platform, and we just specialize them for our workflows. So with that, I can jump in and show you a few things. What I'm going to do is switch over to a browser first. And this is the ChatGPT Atlas browser. And what I kind of want to show you is, and if you are just starting on the workflow, in the job hunt in that workflow, I encourage you that you should drop your resume and start asking questions. And if you don't have a resume, start typing in everything you know about yourself and have it help you build a resume. But I assume most of you have a resume. And so what I've done here is I dropped my sample resume into ChatGPT and asked it, to improve this resume, and it gives me suggestions and prints out recommendations. And so you could do this iteratively over time. You could type in additional prompts if you want to change direction. Many of you are in the middle of a career pivot, and that's specifically tricky because generally when you're career pivoting, your resume reflects a direction in your career that you're trying to move away from. And so, for example, my background is almost entirely in high tech, working on products or in partnerships. And so, if I decided to pivot, for example, into environmental work, I would have to retell my story from the angle of that universe. And so, you can use ChatGPT to do that. And so, that would just be a prompt. So, please pivot my resume to match environment. Um, environmental hiring companies, which is maybe not the best English for me. But what it'll do is go through and it'll make that change for you. And so it'll change my core capabilities, and it'll focus on the fact that I'm still an expert in technology, and it'll focus on the fact that I could bring technology to this new pivot. And so these are the types of flexible things that generic AI can do for you that I highly recommend you try. And so I've created a series of tabs. You can find job opportunities. Um, I'll show you our workflow for that, but they do bring them up. You can compare and contrast yourself against those jobs right in here. So based on your resume and background, here are the strongest current opportunity brands for you. So it's actually finding me the types of companies that I should be looking for. This prompt was, bringing me actual roles, and so it's searching against a number of sources and bringing me those. I can then use it to do customizations, which I kind of showed you a little bit of. Um, and then I can even ask it questions about networking and even interview questions and dive in there. And so think of it as your private career coach that can follow around with you. And there are a number of different versions of this you can try. So I'm using ChatGPT. There's Claude. There's Perplexity. There's Grok. There's DeepSeek. Most of them are going to work similarly, and you can decide which one provide a style that that you're looking for. It sounds like some people are having trouble seeing what I'm showing you. Is that generic or let's see. Can you see if I scroll? It's zoomed in too far. Huh. Well, let me switch over to a different window. Um, it's showing only the right side. Interesting. All right, so this may be a bug with their browser, so I'm gonna switch over to this and tell me, can you see Callings now? Okay. Well, I swear that wasn't on purpose, and I do think these other tools are really valuable. So I'm sorry that it got cut off. I had not tested the ChatGPT web browser effectively using Zoom, and it looks like there may be a bug. So thanks for your patience on that. So let me show you now how a dedicated platform like ours might work in your workflow instead. And so if you see here, this is Callings. This is the Callings.ai platform. And again, if you want to follow along with me, go to Callings.ai/accelerate and register. And then you can actually try out the tools that I'm showing you for free for a month and see how it works for you. When you do that, the first thing that we're going to ask for, you're going to see an onboarding system for your resume. And when you enter your resume, and you can also enter in your LinkedIn profile instead, if you prefer to do that, that information comes into our platform. We don't share it with anybody. When we use our AI APIs, they cannot keep or use any information about you, and we don't share it with anybody. So you have complete privacy on our platform unless you give us permission. And right now, we don't have any features to directly share about you. You apply to the jobs yourself. So you're pretty safe and secure with your resume coming to us. And when you upload your resume, I'll show you a few things that we do first. The first thing we do is most applicant tracking systems today scrape the data off your resume. So having complex formatted resumes is not something that will ever get through in many cases to where you're sending them. And so what we do is we create a single column rich text format resume that we've aggressively tested against applicant tracking systems so that we know that it will get through. And so that may be a little alienating to you, especially if you spend a lot of time on that, purple dinosaur background or on the tables in your resume. You can always use those, and you can take the information we provide and what we've updated on your resume and work that back into your formatted resume. But just keep in mind, we've done this for a very specific reason. We want you to get through the applicant tracking system and be considered. We don't want you to be rejected because your data has been scraped incorrectly. And what we do with your resume, first and foremost, is we run an assessment on it. And this is a take on how you project yourself. It's oftentimes very difficult when you have a resume to see how it lands with other people. So we're trying to give you a sense of that. So we're going to give you a 6-second verdict on your resume. We're going to pull out the things that we find that are immediately strong about it, and then potential red flags that you might want to consider when you think about your resume. We tell you what we think it says about you in terms of your qualities and strengths, your career story, your market fit, in the implied future roles that that this resume may lead to. And then we do a detailed technical scorecard on your resume to show you where it's strong and weak. And you can see here, my resume is not as strong as it needs to be for quantifiable achievements. And this is the metrics that people use to judge how you did in your previous roles. And this comes up a lot, right? People want you to be able to quantify that if you were a salesperson, you increased sales 38%, or if you were in finance, you reduced cost by 54%, or whatever the numbers are in your particular area. And so, keep that in mind, and you can show it to your friends. This is just our take from studying a lot of resumes, but they're hopeful to you, hopefully. Peer benchmarking is another thing we provide. Where do you compare against similar candidates in your field? And then the final thing we provide is areas where we can help you improve your resume if you're interested. And all you have to do is click on this and hit the Work with AI, and we will pop up this interface in which we show you your resume, what it looks like in a WYSIWYG format. This is what it looks like printed out. And then what we're going to do is ask you a series of questions on the left-hand side here. Did any of these startups raise funding, launch a product, or grow their user base? And really what it's doing is trying to get me to give it more metrics to put into my resume. And so you just chat with the AI here and answer the questions, and it will improve your resume if that's what you want to do. And we do that across a number of different criteria, and so you can explore that. We also do an applicant tracking system test on this version of the resume, so you can get a sense of the details that we focus on to make certain you get through. And then you can download a PDF or a .doc version of this version of your resume if you'd like. We also support multiple resumes, and a lot of people have multiple personas to pursue multiple areas of their field. And the longer you've been in the workforce, the more likely it is that you'll have sort of multiple careers. For example, I have a ton of experience in product marketing and product management, but I also spent a lot of time in partnerships and alliance building. And so I could potentially have two resumes. All the resumes that you share with us give you the opportunity to polish and customize when you apply for a job. We'll take all that information and build a custom resume for you, which I'll show you in a bit. The second thing I want to show you is my insights, and this turns out to have been a very popular feature with our users. So when you're in a job hunt, you have to learn how to articulate yourself out into a marketplace, and it's not an easy task. It's not a natural task either. And so what we do is we read your resume and we generate a series of reports for you. Your goal report. Based on your resume, these are the things that stand out that are important in your resume. Your ideal job. Based on your resume, here is what an ideal job would look like for you in your next stop. A persona is, and this is in beta right now, is kind of a one phrase way of describing what your true value is in the marketplace. I'm a vision builder or an alliance storyteller. And this came from one of our users who told me this, and it stuck in my brain. He said, "I'm a problem solver for ops and manufacturing." And so this helps. We read your stuff and we reflect back to you what this says. And then the final thing we generate is brand elements. And to go out and talk about yourself in the job market, you need to train on it. It's not going to come naturally. And so we generate those brand elements that are essential in your pitch. Your 20-second elevator pitch, your longer 2-minute pitch, your professional summary, headlines that you might use in emails or on your resume or on the internet or in emails or whatever you're doing. What makes you unique? We pull out the 5 things that really stand out about you, the top 10 skills that you project from your resume, and the top 10 achievements that you had. And this is a cheat sheet that you can print out and keep next to you. So when people ask you questions like, tell me about yourself, or, what makes you unique, you just have those answers, or at least you can practice them. At the beginning of this is my goals questionnaire. And what we do is we build a series of custom questions based on your background for you to answer. If you answer these questions and regenerate these reports by clicking the regenerate button here, then your goals, your ideal job, your persona, and your brand elements will be customized to include your answers. And this makes them highly specialized and focused on you. And so the questions we ask are things like, what aspects of product management do you find fulfilling? So if you're not in product management, your questions are going to be totally different. But if you answer with just one sentence and go through this, you're going to find that your goals, your ideal job, the brand elements and persona are all going to be highly customized for you. And this basically helps you understand a key thing. You're a product. You have to sell that as a product. And this basically helps you sort of depersonalize it a bit so that you have your cheat sheet or your brochure to talk about yourself, not in the third person, but talk about yourself as if you're a value proposition for the hiring companies, because that's what they're looking for. They only are interested in connecting with you as a real human being after they know that you can add value to their organization. And so I encourage you all to play with the My Insights thing, because I think it'll give you tools to bounce against to understand yourself better. By the way, if you disagree with any of the things in here, these are all editable and you can write your own narrative on this and still print it out and have it. So, the goal is not to tell you something you don't believe. It's to spark the conversation the biggest challenge job seekers have is the blank page problem. They're starting out with the job hunt and everything is blank. They may not have an updated resume. They don't have cover letters. They don't have job opportunities. They don't know how to articulate themselves because they maybe have not done it in their previous job. So that's what my insights is. Um, Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is the workflow for getting a job. And so once you understand yourself, you know what your personal brand is, you've got your resume improved. Now you need to go out and find a job. And the core of our system is the job tracker. And this is basically every job seeker we've ever talked to told us they were building spreadsheets to manage their job hunt. And we were like, I think we can take that off their plate. We can build a better CRM for them. And so that's what this is. This is all the jobs that you're pursuing. And you can add jobs from us, which I'll show you shortly, but you can also use our extension and add jobs from LinkedIn and Indeed that you find, or you can add jobs manually by clicking this add jobs manually button if you find a job that you like at a hiring company site, for example. And so we're agnostic. We want you to find every job that you're interested in pursuing, and then we'll just track them all here. And you'll notice that there's a scoring system on the left. Let me explain that to you. When you drop your resume, we immediately start looking for jobs that match you. And when you answer questions in My Insights, that gives us even more information to find jobs that match you. And what we do is we populate this Find Matching Jobs button with job opportunities that we've scored against your resume. And the best way to think of this is the likelihood that you'll get through the applicant tracking system. This is the match that your resume has for this job. And generally, anything over 80% is pretty good. 90% means you're highly qualified. And you'll have a chance, as I'll show you in a bit, to steer your resume to an even better match. But we just bring you jobs based on this, and we have millions of jobs in our inventory, and we're finding jobs that match you. You don't need to search using keywords anymore. This is a semantic search using AI, comparing a number of variables on your resume and other information you provide us to find jobs that truly you're qualified for and match for. And then all you need to do is you can hit this job details button and it'll tell you more details. Here's the original listing. Here are the technical skills and soft skills they're looking for. On the left, we pull out things like, if they have a salary function or location, et cetera. And so at a glance, you can see what the job is, and then you can just add it to your tracker by hitting this button right here. If you don't like it, you can just say, don't show me again, and that job will disappear and we won't ever show it to you again. And you can just go through these jobs and find the ones that you're highly qualified for and add them to your tracker. And then here's the tracker. You can search and sort on a number of criteria in the tracker. So if I search by the match score, this one's pinned, but you can see that, this one's 93% at the top of the range. You can search by when it was listed, when it was added with us, the company name, the salary. You can search on things like, Apple. That's my old company. So, I have a bunch of jobs from Apple in here. You can also custom sort. And this allows you to really stay organized about all the jobs you're pursuing. It's very difficult to delete a job here. You can archive a job that you pursued that you're not interested in anymore, but it's always there in case you need to go back and reference it. And so this is the main workflow for the tool. It allows you to find all your jobs in one place. We also show you a Kanban view of this so that as you progress and you prepare and you apply and you're interviewing, you can move jobs into different statuses across your job hunt. These are all customizable, by the way. So if you don't like what we have here, you can create your own categories. And so that's the organization of your job hunt. Let's dive into how you can actually apply. And so as I'm going through these, I really like this Gusto job. And so I'm going to click on that. And what I'm diving into now is the job detail report for this specific job. And for each of the specific jobs in your dashboard or your tracker, on the left, by the way, you have a quick jump over just using the company icon if you want to jump between jobs. You can see the first tab in what we call our job detail report, which is how to evaluate this job. And there's prepare, network, interview, and then notes for all these jobs as well. And I'm going to go through all of those. But under the evaluate, We're trying to consolidate everything you need to know about a job to decide whether you want to apply. And so we pull out the TLDRs on this job, things like salary and location, and then we show you the original job post. Why, you ask, are things green and yellow? Well, we've gone ahead and done a profile match on this job description against your resume to show you things where you have a partial match, a strong match, or a weak match. And so as I scroll down here, I need 10 years of hands-on experience. Got that. Exceptional communication and interpersonal skills. You'll have to tell me that's iffy. And so, you can turn this off if you find it annoying. But if you find value in it, it's a quick way to glance at a job description and say, okay, this is where my candidacy is really going to take off, the things that are green. And the things that are in yellow or red are things that you may need to protect against or bolster your resume for. On the right-hand side, we tell you more about this score of 89%. The TLDR is it's an extent that I have extensive leadership that matches this role. The limitation is that they look for hands-on platform product management experience, and my resume does not articulate that. Ironic, considering I'm showing you a platform that I helped build. So that sounds like something I need to improve on my resume. If you click on full report, we provide a highly detailed report of all the aspects of your candidacy for this job. And this is a very popular function. Our users love it because it gives them a reflection of how they're going to do with this job. Let's see. Uh, Yeah, and I'm gonna have to wait until the end to go through the questions if that's okay. And but I promise I'll get to all of them. So the next thing is the job insights, and this is just really a report that details the things we can pull out of this. And an important aspect of a job application is making certain that your skills match, because many applicant tracking systems aren't very bright, and so they just look for keywords like, if you're a programmer, does it say C++? Does it say JavaScript? And if you don't have those on your resume, they may reject you. And so we're pulling those out of the job description to make certain that you see them and can add those to your resume to make certain that your qualifications express themselves properly. The final thing is we do a full company report on Gusto. We tell you about it. Some of these companies, we can even pull the Glassdoor ratings. Let me see if I can show you. So we pull the latest news about the company. We don't have a Glassdoor rating for Gusto, which is interesting, but I think we have one for Johnson and Johnson here. And and the goal is to really pull those out and show you that. I guess not. That's interesting. Um, but really, it's important for, oh, this is Jack and Jill. That's why. Let's see if Johnson and Johnson has it. There you go. So this has Glassdoor ratings for J&J. So some of the smaller companies don't have those, but the goal again is in one place to do all your research and decide whether you want to apply. The next tab is the actual preparation process. And what is the preparation process for a job hunt? You need to have a custom resume and cover letter, and you need to submit it to that company. And so what we do is we generate, based on the resume you uploaded and the information you provide us and the job description, an authentic resume that matches you, does not lie or hallucinate skills or talents you don't have. We generate a steered resume that reflects the very best version of you for this role. And then what we do is we give you the chance to review what we've changed. And the way this works is everything in green is rewritten to steer closer to the job description. Everything in red has been changed. And so kind of like Microsoft Word, we show you the tracking system of what's changed. This is, by the way, a word processor, so you can go in and rewrite these yourself if you don't like what we've written. We also describe down here the reasoning for our changes and the coaching hints that we make. And all you need to do is accept the changes, keep the original, or rewrite your own. And so you can just go through and build a new custom resume. Oh, I like my original for this, accept, accept, accept. And then I highly recommend that you consider and review the skills block that we've rewritten, because that will help align with the job, and accept those. And boom, you have a new tailored resume for this role. Please review it, and then you can save it. And when you come back over here, you can download this as a PDF or a .doc. If you want to, you can regenerate this. If you upload a different resume, you can regenerate it against that new resume. All those are options for you, and we do an analysis and an applicant tracking system audit on this particular version. And then we also generate a cover letter. And this is also editable and promptable, so you can just type in what changes you want. And, like for example, translate into Italian. And we'll go ahead and steer this cover letter. The important thing is to make certain the cover letter you get it done. Many people that we talk to, and I don't know if you can see this, but this has now been translated into Italian. I don't know how many people will do that. You're probably more likely to just say, "Hey, I know this guy from wiffle ball. Could you please mention that?" And it'll rewrite it that way. So prompt your cover letter, get your resume tailored, download both, and then click the apply button. Will take you to where the job is posted, and you can apply to that job. And we do not do auto apply for a very specific reason. Companies are moving away from it. They're asking very complicated questions now and put trick questions in. And so I encourage you to actually go through this single apply process if you're serious about a job, because they're blocking auto apply. And so, congratulations. Your resume and cover letter are now in a pile of 250 other resumes and cover letters. It's important, as they say, you can't win if you don't play. But the next step is, I think, the one that's most important, which is after you apply for a job, you must network to that job. And here's how that works. And this, we think, is a relatively unique feature. We go out and we look at this job post and we compare it. We compare the job post against people that we can find on LinkedIn to find people that are actually connected with this specific role. And so this is head of product for core experiences. The number one suggested contact we find is the VP and head of product for core experiences. So this is no doubt the hiring manager. And so we bring you up to seven or eight people that are associated with this job that you can reach out to. And we make it very easy to connect. We generate, if you just hit this reach out button, we generate a message to go to this person. And you can prompt changes if you'd like, just like I showed you with the cover letter, or you can rewrite it yourself here. And once it's exactly what you want it to say, you can either hit open email and we will find this person's email address and you can send them a direct email, or we'll take you to LinkedIn and you can send them an email. And this message then goes out. And our hope is that you'll apply to multiple jobs and then you'll network to 3 or 4 people per job. If you do that just a little bit, your network is going to grow. And not all of them will respond, but some of them will. And you have to remember too that most of the people at companies, they often get benefits and bonuses for finding candidates for a job. It's a referral bonus. So they may not ignore you, they may respond. And so this is the key thing. 70 to 80% of all successful job hunts have networking. You've got to network. And what we do is this with this targeted networking tool is when you're applying for a job in our system, we find people that you can reach out to communicate with. This isn't all. You should, of course, go to LinkedIn, see who in your network you know, reach out to them. It's a critical part of the workflow, but we try and take you to the next level with networking. The final step is interviewing. And we generate a very detailed, customized interview report for each role you're pursuing based on the job description and the company and your background. We give you a pep talk. We're brutally honest about the pitfalls of your candidacy that you need to guard for. And we give you a strategy. We also tell you who you're likely to interview, their focus and the expectations that they have coming into the interview with you. We provide interview topics that are likely to come up, a description of those and how to prepare for those, questions they're likely to ask and why and how you might consider answering them, behavioral questions that are very common in interviews and using the STAR system, how to respond to those, and questions you can ask them because you never want to leave an interview without asking hard questions in return. And then finally, we give you a series of other resources you can use to continue preparing. And this is all printable. You can have it right next to you when you're in the middle of the interview, if you're on Zoom, so that you have a reference sheet. Finally, you can add notes, to-dos, and reminders for each of these jobs, and they're always there. So if somebody responds, you can copy, just add a note and copy the entire email in. And so you can go back to your tracker here, find the job that you applied to, and then just read the notes. And then, it's always going to be there. Ah, slow on the redraw today. So there you have it. That's an overview of many of the features in Callings.ai, and they really mirror the types of workflow steps that I showed you using, these generic AI tools and the steps that are pretty logically the process of finding a job. And we have many new tools coming. We work really hard on adding new capabilities every couple of weeks. So we're pretty excited about our roadmap. We also provide webinars like this on a variety of topics around the job hunt. We record them all, so they're all available to you as a library. So, for example, if you want to dive into interviewing or networking for introverts or how to write a resume that gets you hired, we have that content available for you right inside the platform. We also host a weekly networking and community event for our users, so you can join that and meet other job seekers. Remember, other job seekers are more likely to help you because they're in the same boat as you. And if you think about it, if you have an indexed list of other job seekers that you're interacting with, the odds are pretty good that some of them have worked for the company you're going to apply to. And so, that's how networking works. So that's all built into the platform as well. We have a blog, so you can read articles about the job hunt, and there's more, but I think that's the high level. And with that, I'll stop bending your ear on the platform, but the goal with Callings is to really help you manage what is an increasingly complex workflow and make it manageable and sustainable. And the feedback from our users is that so far we're doing a pretty good job with that. Whether you use us or anything else, I highly encourage you to go out and use AI in your job hunt. And think of your job hunt as a full-time job that you're doing with a workflow and a series of steps that you need to learn. You can't wing it in the modern job hunt unless maybe you have a really great connection. Sometimes that works, but then you're not playing the odds. So be sure to go and do the work on your job hunt, and then try not to let it get to you. It's going to be a process, and that's what we built our platform for. So with that, what I'm going to do is move over to the QA and see if I can answer some of your questions specifically. Um, and wow, there's quite a few of them. So let's start at the top. Are ATS or applicant tracking systems used alongside LLMs, or are they replaced by them? And the answer is both. So some ATS systems are still keyword based and not super bright. So they'll scan your resume and look for keywords that match what's in the job description. And those are the most dangerous because they're not smart enough to semantically understand you. And so they will not draw any conclusions. If you don't have C++ and they want a C++ developer and you've done C++ for 40 years and you just assume they would get that from your resume, you could get rejected. The more modern applicant tracking systems are a little smarter, and they use AI and large language models to semantically look at your resume. And so you just don't know which companies are using which. Question number 2, can Callings also be used as a personal CRM? So we are expanding the CRM function within Callings to allow you to track companies and contacts. And so that's the direction we're going. Right now, I would say it's really just about tracking your job hunt, but over time, we will embrace a broader portion of your job hunt, including tracking other types of things besides the job posts themselves. Chaz asks, do you provide LinkedIn audits? I'd love your advice on my profile. We do not currently have a LinkedIn audit. However, if you decide instead of using your resume to use your LinkedIn profile in our systems to onboard, then the review of that is your LinkedIn audit. So indirectly, it is a LinkedIn audit. We don't yet have a full tool to help you promote and build marketing pieces inside of your LinkedIn profile, but we will tell you what it conveys about you. And you can do that by deleting your resume and putting in your LinkedIn profile into the My Resume function. Is the Callings AI tool applicable for non-US based people? So we're focused on the US as a small company to start out with, but we have jobs in our inventory across the world, and we have users across the world as well. And I believe our Stripe system will accept payment for subscriptions using whatever currency that they accept. And so I think for the pound or for the euro, you're okay. Can you discuss the adage that most people will find their next job through their personal network? Yeah, and I've talked about this today. Networking is a critically important part of the job hunt. Now, there's a chance you can get a job just by applying for a job. But if you really want to increase your odds, you've got to find somebody who will advocate for you so that you become a real person in the eyes of the hiring manager. So when you apply, you're literally, bits, ones and zeros inside of a database. And the dream for you is to somehow get a human being to walk over to the hiring manager and say, JJ is the best candidate ever for this job. You should hire them. And here's their resume. Because the minute that happens, you're already in the subset of people that the hiring manager is going to consider. Now, if he reads your resume and doesn't think you're qualified, you're out. But your odds are instantly dramatically better if you can get somebody to do that. And there's no right way to do that. If you know somebody at the company, if you can find who the hiring manager is and find somebody that knows them, that really increases your odds. If you can connect with somebody at the company that can advocate and carry your resume, same thing. And so think of it as you want to put yourself in front of the hiring manager, and having a human being do that is the most successful way. How you do that depends on which networking strategy will get you there, but it invariably involves finding somebody connected to that person. So let's see. I just started using my persona feature. Very interesting. What guidance can you offer so we can learn more about how to use this? For example, what if you want to change your goals or ideal job to move into a slightly different direction? Thank you, Daniel. So if you answer your questions differently, it will steer your persona. That said, we have some new features coming in the next several weeks, which will make this much easier, especially around career pivots and understanding what market fit you have. So stand by there. Some applications include a short essay. Can the Callings platform help craft that response? We don't have an essay function, and I warn you to be careful there because some companies will then turn around and test your essay to see if it was written with AI. I have no confidence that AI identification tools actually work. I ran some of my own personal short stories written a decade ago and through these tools, and they said that they were 80% AI, which is impossible because I wrote them before AI existed. But it's probably worth putting some personal effort into an essay if they ask you to write it, and put it in your own words, and don't, so maybe you can have ChatGPT draft an essay for you to give you context and then rewrite it yourself in your own parlance and in your own way. That would be my recommendation. Does Callings track user inputs and use it as part of their data training? So the answer is no. So we use your inputs to track information provided to you, but it does not go back into large language model training, nor does it go outside of our system. So we don't build data sets that way, and we won't without your permission. Is Job Tracker its own search engine, or does it search through most online engines? We have our own job system to find job opportunities. In fact, that will be growing in the next 45 days to over 10 million jobs. Our goal is to find jobs that are at hiring sites rather than through other job boards, because many of those have problems. They're either old or they require you to re-register to submit. And so we're pretty excited about where we're going with that, but we believe in having our own job inventory. If you click on the preferences, Connor, in the when you look at the jobs, there's a filter in there. You can click on the little gear, and it'll allow you to enter in the location that you want to search in. And so that's part of basically the preferences of the job match system. Does it show visa sponsorship? And the answer there is dependent on the posting company. So we can't infer anything. If it's part of the job post, we will include it and you can find it. If they don't mention visas, then you'll have to take that up with the hiring company. Is this only relevant for job postings in English? Right now, the platform is in English, yes. So we see expanding our language support, but right now the platform is in English. Can you create a cold email? So we can help generate an outreach email for you. What we can't do is find an email for somebody that we don't know, of course, but you can use a tool. There's part of the networking tool I showed you is to create your own outreach messaging. And that's the kind of thing that you could send out to your friends, family, or people that you want to connect with directly. Will we combine the resume and cover letter if there's nowhere to put a cover letter? We do not currently do that. Most ATS systems have two separate entry points for cover letters and resumes. And you're gonna have to address this regardless of how you develop them. But we don't combine them, and for a very specific reason, which is if they don't have a space for a cover letter, um, we don't want them to scan the cover letter and think it's your resume and auto reject you. And some applications, applicant tracking systems are just that dumb. So I would encourage you to upload your resume directly if they don't have a space for a cover letter, and and I guess not submit one, or secondarily use a PDF tool and add the cover letter after your resume. So the first thing that the ATS sees is your resume. And so those are the questions I have. And we have 2 minutes left if there's anybody else that has questions, or you can even put them into the chat. But I encourage you to try out all of these AI systems if you haven't. If you are, continue to work the workflow for those. There are, of course, many other tools out there to specialize on things like resumes, cover letters, and stuff like that you can try out. We're happy to have you use our platform if you think it would help you. And overall, stay strong. Come and join us for these webinars. They're free. And if you sign up for Callings, even on our trial version, one thing I want to mention, by the way, is finding jobs, saving jobs, and applying to jobs on our platform are always free. So you can use Callings as your tracking system, regardless of whether you use the advanced AI tools that we charge for. So we'll never take away jobs from you. We'll never take away the jobs you've saved. The CRM is always available to you for free. And you're welcome to join us at the Calling Circles weekly to meet other people who are searching, to talk through topics around the job hunt. And those are every Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And so with that, we've hit the end of our time. And I'm happy to stay on a few more minutes in case there are any other questions. And I cannot thank you enough for joining today. And I hope that this was valuable in your job hunt.